The first presidential debate for the 2024 election just wrapped up, and we're going to go over everything you need to know about the candidates involved, their stances, their current standings in the poll, and what they had to say. This is the Political Stalker. Let's get started. August 23rd, 2023 had the first Republican presidential nominee debate featuring Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Tim Scott, Asa Hutchinson, and Doug Burgum. Notably, Donald Trump, who is currently the frontrunner, had decided not to attend. Here's a quick little summary for each of the participating candidates. Ron DeSantis has been serving as the governor of Florida since 2019 and wants to lead our great American comeback. Vivek Ramaswamy is a businessman with an estimated net worth over $950 million and is looking to bring a young and outside perspective to the White House. Mike Pence was the vice president under Donald Trump from 2016 to 2020 and believes in the importance of hard work, faith, and family. Nikki Haley served as governor of South Carolina from 2011 to 2017 and looks to strengthen our country, our pride, and our purpose. Chris Christie served as the governor of New Jersey between 2010 and 2018 and carries the mantra, "Because the truth matters." Tim Scott is a businessman and has been serving South Carolina as a junior U.S. senator since 2013. He stands to restore hope, create opportunities, and protect America. Asa Hutchinson recently ended his term as governor of Arkansas after serving since 2015 and believes in common sense solutions. And finally, Doug Burgum is the current governor of North Dakota and has been serving since 2016. He claims to be a new leader for a changing economy. Donald Trump is also a candidate, though we will actually be talking about him in a separate video since he was not present here. So subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when that comes out. Just before the debate, the polls for each of these candidates looked like this. Trump currently leads with a massive 52.2%, while DeSantis sits at a distant second at 14.5%, a whole 37.7% behind. Vivek is third with 8.9%, Pence is next at 4.2%, Scott at 3.5%, Haley at 3.4%, Christie at 3.3%, Hutchinson at 0.7%, and Burgum at 0.4%. As early as it is in this election, no one can be written off, and we're going to see exactly where everyone stands at the end of this debate. Remember, momentum matters. We'll also be comparing how this looks and changes after the debate as well. So now let's go through the highlights of the debate, sharing the topics that were discussed and the candidates' thoughts on them. We will not be sharing any of our own opinions on anything today, but you are more than welcome to tell us yours in the comments below. The debate began on the topic of the economy, and DeSantis started by sharing what just about everyone on stage believes, that Bidenomics doesn't work and needs to be reversed.
We must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again.
As well, that the U.S. needs to open energy production. Christie responded by agreeing, but that these ideas still need to be sold to non-Republican voters, and that he has the experience appealing to the Democrat voter, having won the governor's seat in a historically blue state. Scott commented that he would focus on lowering federal spending by cutting taxes, and Vivek came out to strong applause and called for a change in leadership, stating that as an entrepreneur, not a politician, he's perfect for the job.
What it means to be an American today. If you have a broken car, you don't turn over the keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem.
Nikki Haley was quick to point out that Republicans are partially to blame for the federal spending, not just Democrats, and Pence came out swinging, saying that he had a lot of experience while serving as vice president and that we don't want a rookie in charge.
Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring
DeSantis voiced his resentment towards the COVID lockdowns and blamed them for the economic downturn.
Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake.
Burgum stated the importance of keeping China in check, and Hutchinson called for an all-out reduction of the federal government. On the topic of climate change, the moderators asked the candidates to raise their hand if they believe that humans are causing climate change.
Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander? So do you want to raise your hand or not? I don't think that's the way to do it.
Vivek proudly stated that he believes climate change to be a hoax and that it's a wet blanket on the economy, followed by saying that he was the only one on stage not being bought out.
I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here
Christie responded by saying that Vivek sounded more like ChatGPT than a person, and in response to the commotion, Haley quoted Margaret Thatcher saying,
"If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman."
Haley then went on to state that she believes climate change to be real, but that it's China's fault. That while Americans like to think that they're being environmentally friendly, the batteries they're buying are being manufactured and made in China.
Then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions.
Scott adds to that by saying that if you want to fix the environment, you need to bring jobs home from China. From there, we start talking about abortion.
Abortion has been a losing issue for Republicans since the Dobbs decision.
Haley starts by stating that she is unapologetically pro-life and that the abortion policy should be decided on a federal level, a belief shared by DeSantis and Burgum. She also called to stop demonizing beliefs and opinions around the subject, but to focus on what people could agree on.
Can't we all agree that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all agree that contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion?
DeSantis said that he believes in life and calls out late-term and post-birth abortions as wrong. He also agreed with Haley that states will handle the subject differently and should therefore be given the ability to decide. Pence did not agree, saying that he fights abortion based on religious principles, calling for a federal minimum abortion term of when the baby is able to feel pain.
After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you."
Haley retorted that she does not want to mislead the people by claiming the president has the power to enact these types of policies. Burgum stated that the federal government should not have the ability to ban abortions, according to the 10th Amendment.
The states created the federal government, not the other way around. It says that there were certain duties allowed to the federal government, delegated to them by the states. The rest are left to the states, comma, or importantly, or to the people.
While both Hutchinson and Scott opposed this, Scott saying that the Declaration of Independence guarantees life to all, and therefore any abortion past 15 weeks should be illegal nationwide.
Our Creator gave us inalienable rights that include life.
The next topic of the debate was about crime, where Pence stated the common belief of the candidates that the police need additional funding, not less. Christie and DeSantis claimed that corrupt prosecutors and district attorneys are to blame for not enacting the law in many parts of the country. Christie stating that we have plenty of room in our jails to clean up the crime.
We have plenty of room in the federal prisons to lock up these violent criminals and clean up what's going on all across this country in these individual cities.
Vivek agreed with Pence, saying that more cops were necessary, but that the focus should be on the mental health of Americans and facilities and programs would be necessary to give people a purpose that was missing in their lives.
We're not looking for a new national identity. The American people are the most faith-filled, freedom-loving, idealistic, hardworking people the world has ever known. We just need government as good as our people.
As some others like you may have on the stage, it's Morning in America speech. It is not Morning in America. We live in a dark moment.
Burgum stated that the solution to crime in large cities was to look to small town values, and Hutchinson would turn to educating and helping those struggling with hard times and addiction. The debate then turned its focus to the elephant not in the room.
We are going to take a brief moment and talk about the elephant not in the room.
Former President Trump has been indicted in 4 different states.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
All but Christie and Hutchinson raised their hands. Christie stating that Trump's conduct around the 2020 election should disqualify him as a president.
Whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. And Chris Christie, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man.
As Christie attempted to respond to this, the audience booed so loudly that the moderators actually had to stop and turn around to address the audience directly.
You sit here in an answer right.
So listen, The more time we spend doing this, the less time they can talk about issues you want to talk about.
Christie simply said that he would not be bowing to a president who belittles the Constitution as he believes Donald Trump has. Scott chimed in to say that no one has faith in our justice system anymore, while DeSantis and Burgum stated that they think we should stop focusing on the last election and instead worry about the next one. Hutchinson explains his lack of support to a potential Trump victory.
He may be disqualified under the 14th Amendment from being president again as a result of the insurrection.
Meanwhile, Haley stated that it should be up to the American people to vote on whether or not Trump should be president, though she is confident that he would not win.
Trump is the most disliked politician in America. We can't win a general election that way.
Vivek took this opportunity to say that if he becomes president, he will be extending a full pardon to Donald Trump.
Join me in making a commitment that on day one you would pardon Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate on the stage who had the courage to actually say it. That is how we move our nation forward.
A statement that seemed to make Mike Pence uneasy.
So, look, if I'm president of the United States, we'll give fair consideration to any pardon request. But if I may...
Pence recollects keeping his oath to the Constitution with religious valor and believes that Trump should be considered innocent until proven guilty, just like anyone else in this country. The candidates were then asked about the war in Ukraine and whether they would stop sending aid.
Is there anyone on stage who would not support the increase of more funding to Ukraine?
We would not support it. Europe needs to step up.
DeSantis and Vivek were the only ones to raise their hands. DeSantis, however, said that if Europe were to send their fair share of aid, then he would too, though we should be sending our troops to our southern border before we send them to Ukraine. Vivek, on the other hand, adamantly opposed the support in Ukraine, stating that we need to focus our efforts on the southern border and that by aiding Ukraine, we are alienating Russia and sending them into China's arms.
We are driving Russia further into China's hands. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat we face.
Christie then talked about the atrocities that he had heard about in this war and cited this as his reason to continue aid. Pence believes that we can support Ukraine while also securing our border here at home, an opinion shared by Hutchinson and Burgum. Pence also believes that if Ukraine doesn't beat Russia, we eventually will have to. Vivek responded to this by saying that China is the real threat in the situation and that a Russian-Chinese alliance is the more pressing issue, to which Mike Pence tried to interrupt and stop Vivek from speaking, so much so that the moderators had to stop him and remind him of the rules of the debate.
Mr. Vice President, we can't hear Mr. Vice President.
Is to give Russia everything they've got.
Mr. Vice President.
I think we need to establish some ground rules here,
When we
folks.
hear this bell,
Yes.
that means your time's done.
Vivek finished by saying that he believes Ukraine simply not to be a priority. Haley believes the war in Ukraine is a question of right and wrong, and that a win for Russia is a win for China. She then went on to accuse Vivek of not standing with allies like Israel, which he adamantly stated was a lie. On the topic of border patrol, Scott said that we need to fire all the new IRS agents that Biden had hired, and instead increase our border patrol as well as finish the border wall. Hutchinson said that in order to secure our border and eliminate the cartel, we need to cooperate with the Mexican government. DeSantis seemed to agree and stated that we need to be prepared to meet the cartel with lethal force. Mike Pence believed that he has the most experience with border security and is the most qualified to finish the wall. When asked about illegal immigrants, Chris Christie stated that all should be held accountable, detained, and sent back.
Would you send those people back?
Of course. You'd have to.
The topic changed to education, and DeSantis stated what most of the other candidates would also later state, that the Department of Education needs to be eliminated. DeSantis also blamed the current poor education on the COVID lockdowns.
A lot of the problems that we've seen are because these lockdown states lock their kids out of school for a year and a half. That was wrong.
And that race theory and gender ideology do not belong in schools K through 12.
In Florida, we eliminated critical race theory from our K through 12 schools. We eliminated gender ideology from our K through 12 schools. And we have elevated the importance of American civics in teaching our kids about the Constitution.
Vivek also stated that local teachers' unions need to be eliminated, an opinion shared by Scott. Vivek also believes that graduating seniors should be required to take the same civics test that immigrants take, and that the family unit should be promoted and encouraged, which he believes would strengthen the education of young people. Burgum stated that the federal government should not try to apply a one-size-fits-all fix for everything, and that it's time for the school system to innovate. Haley pushed classroom transparency for parents and the importance of vocational classes in high school. Hutchinson also specifically called for an increase in computer science classes in high school.
Should presidents have to pass a mental and physical test in order to serve Vice President Pence?
Well, it might be a good idea to have everybody in Washington, D.C. pass a mental. But 30 seconds, no. The American people can make those judgments.
He did say, however, that he personally believes that a president shouldn't be too old or too young, looking at Vivek, who responded by saying that while voters should decide, he believes it's time for a younger generation to take the White House.
I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward.
Now it's time for closing statements. Burgum stated that he would secure the border, get the economy running, and focus on innovation. Hutchinson emphasized the need for a president to bring a level of optimism to the office. Scott made it clear that if you commit a crime, you should be punished for that.
And if God made you a man, you play sports against men.
Christie reminded us that he is one of the few to beat an incumbent Democrat and believes he can do it again. Haley said that she will strengthen the economy, secure the border, and stop inflation. Pence closed by sharing his belief that leadership needs to be proven and that his experience gives him the advantage. Vivek finished by saying God is real, there are only two genders, oil is essential, and parents should be the ones making the decisions for their children. And DeSantis closed out the debate by sharing about his time serving the US in Iraq. And just like that, the first debate for the Republican nominee for president is finished. 24 hours after the end of the debate, the polls now look like this. Trump remains in a big lead at 52%. DeSantis stays in second at 14.7%, while Vivek climbs a whole percent to 9.9%. Pence stays put at 4.1%. Haley moves up to the fifth spot with a 0.4% boost. Scott climbs 0.2% even though he gets bumped down to sixth, while Christie, Hutchinson, and Burgum all remain within 0.1% of where they started. Here are some of the biggest takeaways for each candidate. Ron DeSantis openly opposed the COVID lockdowns and states that they resulted in worse education and economy. He also believes in removing race theory and other progressive ideals from school curriculums. States should decide the policies of abortion, but that late and post-term abortions are wrong. He believes that district attorneys are to blame for the high crime rates and believes that we need to turn our focus away from the last election and events of January 6th. DeSantis supports aiding Ukraine, but only if Europe pulls their own weight, but believes that we should be sending troops to our southern border before we try to send any to Ukraine, meeting cartel members with lethal force. Vivek Ramaswamy sees himself as an outsider both in politics and his younger age. He openly believes climate change to be a hoax that is ruining the economy and that most politicians won't say that because they've been bought. He believes Trump to be the best president in recent history and would completely pardon him for all accusations. He wants to address crime at a mental health level and doesn't support the war in Ukraine, saying that it pushes Russia to China and that their cooperation is the real threat. Finally, he believes that high school seniors should take a civics test to graduate and that the nuclear family is the ideal model in society. Mike Pence believes that experience is one of the most important aspects of this election and that he has the most of it. He religiously believes that abortion should be illegal nationwide after a baby is able to feel pain. He also strongly believes that he upheld his oath to the Constitution while vice president, something he does not believe Trump did, but that Trump should be considered innocent until proven guilty. He believes in supporting Ukraine and believes himself to be the most prepared to finish construction of the border wall, having been there when it was started. Nikki Haley quickly criticized the Republican Party for overspending and contributing to the current state of the economy. She believes that climate change is real, but that China is principally to blame, as well as our dealing with China. She is pro-life and thinks that federal government should not be able to make decisions on abortion. She would continue to aid Ukraine as she sees it as a war between right and wrong and looks to increase classroom transparency. Chris Christie refers to his victory over an incumbent Democrat governor in a historically blue state as evidence that he can appeal to non-Republican voters. He wants to see criminals of all kinds in jail and paying for their crimes, and would not support Trump if he were to win the primaries while being convicted of crimes. He would close the border and then detain and send back any illegal immigrants, and wants to see an end to the war in Ukraine by sending any aid necessary. Tim Scott wants to bring jobs back to the United States from China, believes that abortions on demand are immoral, and that a federal ban of 15-week abortions should be implemented. He sees a lack of faith in our justice system and wants to fire IRS agents in order to hire Border Patrol agents and to finish the wall. Asa Hutchinson wants to see the federal government address abortion, focus on educating and helping those with addiction. Hutchinson does not support Trump and believes that he should be disqualified. He believes that we can support Ukraine as well as secure our border and that we need to cooperate with Mexico to do so. He wants to see computer science taught in schools and believes that the president should be optimistic for the future of the country. Doug Burgum believes that the country needs small town values for many of its issues. He thinks that states should make any decision on abortion. He doesn't want to dwell on past elections, supports aiding Ukraine and wants to aid Taiwan as well, and he believes in a total innovation of the education system. And again, we will be discussing Donald Trump, but not until a later video. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for that. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Hopefully this video helped to inform you on the debate and the candidates and help you know where you stand in all this. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Political Stalker, and we will see you next time.